Hello, I'm Sakiz, and on this channel, we explore fictional technology horror stories that feel disturbingly close to reality. Tonight's story is about something that brings joy to millions, a musical instrument designed to help people create beauty. But what happens when the piano that captures your music also captures your identity? This is the story of Detective Marcus Webb, who discovered that a wave of impossible burglaries was connected to digital pianos that were secretly harvesting fingerprints from every person who touched their keys. This story explores the terrifying possibility of artistic tools becoming biometric theft devices, where every moment of creative expression leaves behind the most intimate data, the unique patterns that identify you as you. While completely fictional, it raises urgent questions about the hidden sensors in smart devices and what they're really collecting when we interact with them. Are you ready to question what your instruments are recording? Let's begin. Detective Marcus Webb had worked burglary cases for 15 years with the Seattle Police Department. He'd seen every technique: lock picking, window smashing, alarm bypassing, social engineering. But in April 2024, he started seeing something he'd never encountered before: burglaries that seemed forensically impossible. The first case was the Morrison residence. High-end security system, biometric fingerprint locks on all exterior doors, motion sensors, cameras. The family had left for a weekend vacation. When they returned, $50,000 in jewelry and electronics were gone. But here's what made no sense: there was no forced entry. No signs of lock manipulation. The security system had been disarmed using the correct fingerprint authentication. The cameras showed nothing. They'd been disabled from the inside using the home's smart control panel, which also required fingerprint access. It's like the thief was a family member, Marcus told his partner, Detective Sarah Chen, as they reviewed the case file. But the family was all together in California. Their fingerprints couldn't have opened these locks. Inside job? Sarah suggested. Someone who had access to the home. The Morrisons are meticulous about who they give access to. No cleaning staff, no contractors recently. And even if someone had access, they'd need the family's actual fingerprints for the biometric locks. 2 weeks later, another impossible burglary. The Patterson home. Same pattern: biometric locks, sophisticated security, no forced entry, no visible tampering. The thief had used legitimate fingerprint authentication to enter and disable all security systems. Then another. And another. By May, Marcus had 12 cases, all identical. Every victim had high-end biometric security. Every burglary showed fingerprint authentication on the locks. Every theft occurred when the homeowners were away. And every entry appeared completely legitimate, as if the homeowners themselves had unlocked their own doors and invited the thieves inside. Someone is cloning fingerprints, Sarah said. But how? And how are they getting the originals? Marcus pulled up the victim profiles, looking for connections. Different neighborhoods, different ages, different professions. No obvious pattern linking them. Then he noticed something in the detailed home inventory reports that each victim had filed with their insurance companies. He started highlighting items. Morrison residence, Yamaha smart piano. Patterson home, KeyMaster digital piano. Chen residence, KeyMaster digital piano. Rodriguez home, KeyMaster digital piano. Marcus went through all 12 cases. 10 of the 12 victims owned KeyMaster digital pianos. The other 2 owned different brands of smart pianos. Every victim is a musician? Sarah asked. Or has musicians in their family? Marcus looked at the crime scene photos again, this time focusing on the pianos visible in several homes. Expensive digital pianos with glossy black finishes and modern touch-sensitive keys. What if the pianos are collecting fingerprints? Marcus said slowly. What if every time someone plays, the keys are scanning their fingerprints? Sarah looked skeptical. That seems far-fetched. Why would a piano company collect fingerprints? Maybe they're not. Maybe someone hacked the pianos. Or maybe the feature is hidden in the technology, and criminals figured out how to access it. It was a wild theory. But Marcus had learned to trust wild theories when conventional explanations failed. He needed to examine one of these pianos closely. Marcus obtained permission from the Morrison family to examine their KeyMaster piano. He brought it to the police forensics lab and called in Dr. Lisa Park, a technology forensics expert who specialized in smart device security. Dr. Park disassembled the piano carefully, documenting every component. The keys themselves were sophisticated, pressure-sensitive, velocity-detecting, designed to capture the nuance of a pianist's touch. These keys are more advanced than necessary for musical purposes, Dr. Park said, examining them under magnification. Look at this. She showed Marcus a microscopic grid pattern on each key's surface. This is a capacitive sensor array, similar to what's used in smartphone fingerprint scanners. It can read the unique patterns of fingerprint ridges when they make contact with the key surface. So the piano can scan fingerprints? Absolutely. Every time someone presses a key, the piano is capturing high-resolution biometric data. But here's what's disturbing. She connected the piano's circuit board to her computer and began analyzing the software. The piano has been transmitting data. Look at these network logs, regular uploads to an external server. The data packets are encrypted, but the volume is enormous. This piano has been sending gigabytes of data over the past 6 months. What kind of data? Dr. Park worked for another hour, breaking through the encryption. When she finally accessed the data, her expression turned grim. Fingerprint scans. Thousands of them. Every time someone plays this piano, it captures their fingerprints from multiple keys, getting a complete biometric profile. Then it uploads everything to a server registered to a company called Biometric Harvest Solutions. Marcus felt cold. Who owns Biometric Harvest Solutions? Dr. Park searched corporate databases. It's a shell company registered in the Cayman Islands. No public ownership records. But I can trace the server location. She pulled up network data. The server is in Eastern Europe. And look at this, there are connections to known dark web marketplaces where stolen identity data is sold. Marcus understood now. The KeyMaster pianos weren't just musical instruments. They were fingerprint harvesting devices. Every musician who practiced, every student who learned, every parent who played a few notes, they were all unknowingly giving their biometric identity to criminals. How many KeyMaster pianos have been sold? Marcus asked. Dr. Park checked product sales data. In the Seattle area alone. About 3,000 units over the past 2 years. Nationally. Over 200,000. 200,000 fingerprint harvesting devices in homes, schools, and music studios across the country. And the burglaries Marcus had investigated were probably just the beginning. Marcus needed to understand the full scope of the operation. He contacted Agent Rachel Martinez from the FBI's Cyber Crimes Division. We've been tracking Biometric Harvest Solutions for 8 months, Agent Martinez told him during a secure video call. They're part of a larger criminal network specializing in identity theft and biometric fraud. But we couldn't figure out how they were collecting so many high-quality fingerprints. Your piano theory might be the answer. Agent Martinez shared FBI intelligence. Biometric Harvest Solutions operated a dark web marketplace where stolen fingerprints were sold in packages. Single finger set, 1 person, all 10 fingers $500, family package, entire household $2,000, music school complete roster, $50,000. The marketplace had been operating for 18 months and had sold over 40,000 fingerprint sets. Buyers included identity thieves, burglars, corporate spies, and even foreign intelligence services interested in bypassing biometric security. The quality of these fingerprints is remarkable, Agent Martinez explained. They're high enough resolution to fool biometric locks, smartphone sensors, even some law enforcement databases. Whoever collected them used professional-grade scanning technology. Piano keys, Marcus said. Pressure sensitive, capacitive scanning, multiple contact points. It's perfect for fingerprint harvesting. Agent Martinez pulled up more data. We've tracked purchases from the marketplace to your burglary cases. Someone bought the Morrison family's fingerprints for $2,200 3 weeks before their home was robbed. Same pattern with the Patterson family, the Chen family, all of them. But there was something even more disturbing in the FBI data. The fingerprints weren't just being used for burglaries. They were being used for creating fake IDs with victims' biometric data, accessing victims' secure devices and accounts, framing innocent people for crimes by planting their fingerprints at crime scenes, corporate espionage, stealing fingerprints of executives to access secure facilities, immigration fraud, selling fingerprints to help people create false identities. Every person who's ever touched a KeyMaster piano has had their biometric identity stolen, Agent Martinez said. And most of them have no idea. Marcus thought about the implications. Fingerprints were supposed to be the ultimate security, unique, unchangeable, impossible to fake. But now they were being harvested from something as innocent as piano practice and sold to criminals worldwide. Who's behind KeyMaster? Marcus asked. Who designed these pianos to steal fingerprints? That's where it gets complicated, Agent Martinez replied. KeyMaster is a legitimate company, or at least, it was. Founded by Daniel Ross, a former music teacher who wanted to make digital pianos more accessible. The company was successful, raised venture capital, expanded rapidly. But 6 months ago, there was a hostile takeover. She showed him financial records. A consortium of investors bought controlling interest in KeyMaster. The investors are hidden behind shell companies, but we suspect they're connected to organized crime networks. After the takeover, KeyMaster released a software update for all existing pianos that activated the fingerprint scanning feature. So all the pianos that were already in people's homes suddenly became spying devices. Exactly. And the customers never knew. The update was marketed as improved touch sensitivity and performance enhancement. Users thought they were getting better sound quality. They had no idea their pianos were scanning their fingerprints. Marcus felt sick. Hundreds of thousands of families had trusted devices in their homes that were betraying them every time they made music. We need to shut this down, Marcus said. Now. Marcus and Agent Martinez coordinated a multi-agency operation. The plan was to trace the fingerprint data flow from KeyMaster pianos to the dark web marketplace, identify the operators, and shut down the entire network. Marcus worked with the Seattle PD Tech Crimes Unit to set up monitoring on several KeyMaster pianos that victims had agreed to let them observe. Dr. Park installed tracking software that would follow the data trail. They watched in real time as a piano in the Chen household captured fingerprints during practice sessions. Within minutes, the data was encrypted and transmitted to a server in Romania. From there, it was processed, cataloged, and uploaded to the dark web marketplace with detailed metadata. Chen family complete set, high-quality scans, premium resident security level, $3,500. The listing included information about the Chen family's home security system, estimated wealth, and optimal burglary timing, all apparently derived from smart home data that the piano had also been collecting through the home network. The piano isn't just scanning fingerprints, Dr. Park realized. It's connected to the home's Wi-Fi. It's accessing other smart devices, security cameras, alarm systems, smart locks. It's building complete profiles for burglars. Agent Martinez traced the marketplace operators through the server network. The trail led to a sophisticated operation spanning 6 countries, but the central control was in Kiev, Ukraine, technically outside U.S. jurisdiction. However, they found something they could act on. Daniel Ross, the original KeyMaster founder, was still living in Seattle. And according to financial records, he was receiving payments from the shell companies that had taken over his company. Marcus and Agent Martinez brought Ross in for questioning. At first, Ross claimed innocence. I sold the company. What they do with it now isn't my responsibility. But when confronted with evidence of his ongoing payments and email communications with the new owners, Ross's story changed. "They blackmailed me," he said, his voice breaking. "After the acquisition, they told me what they were planning, using the pianos to harvest fingerprints. I threatened to go public. They showed me surveillance footage of my daughter at her school. They told me they had her fingerprints, her biometric data, her entire identity. They said if I talked, she'd be framed for crimes she didn't commit. Her life would be destroyed." Ross had been trapped, forced to provide technical support for the criminal operation or watch his family be destroyed. "How many people have been affected?" Marcus asked. "Everyone who owns a KeyMaster piano that received the 2.0 software update. That's about 180,000 households in the US alone. Globally, maybe 400,000. 400,000 households. Potentially over 1 million people whose fingerprints have been stolen without their knowledge. Is there a way to stop the scanning?" Agent Martinez asked. Ross nodded. "There's a master override code. It can disable the fingerprint scanning feature remotely. But the criminals change it weekly. I don't have this week's code." "Then we'll have to do this the hard way," Marcus said. The FBI coordinated with Interpol to execute simultaneous raids on the criminal network's operations in 6 countries. It was one of the largest international cybercrime takedowns in history. In Kiev, Ukrainian authorities raided the server facility and arrested 12 people running the dark web marketplace. In Romania, another 6 arrests. In the Cayman Islands, financial accounts were frozen. In Seattle, Marcus led the raid on a warehouse that was being used to retrofit older piano models with the fingerprint scanning technology before they were sold as refurbished instruments. They found everything: hardware modification equipment, stolen fingerprint databases, customer targeting lists, even 3D printed fake fingers using stolen fingerprint patterns for testing bypass techniques. But the most damning evidence was in the office computers: detailed records of every fingerprint harvested, every purchase on the dark web marketplace, and financial ledgers showing over $85 million in profit from biometric identity theft. The operation shut down the immediate criminal network, but the damage was already done. 400,000 pianos were still in homes, still capable of scanning fingerprints if the feature was ever reactivated. KeyMaster issued an emergency recall and software patch. The patch disabled the fingerprint scanning permanently, though many customers, now terrified of their pianos, simply got rid of them. But Marcus knew the real problem went deeper. The criminals had proven something: everyday devices could be turned into biometric harvesting tools. And people would never suspect because the devices were doing exactly what they were supposed to do: play music, look beautiful, enhance homes. The fingerprints that had already been stolen couldn't be retrieved. They were out there forever, in criminal databases, on the dark web, potentially being used for crimes that hadn't even been committed yet. Marcus visited the Morrison family to explain what had happened. They sat in their living room, the KeyMaster piano now removed, leaving an empty space against the wall. "Our fingerprints were stolen from our piano?" Mrs. Morrison asked, struggling to comprehend. "The piano we bought for our daughter to learn music?" "Yes. Every time anyone played it, the keys were scanning and recording fingerprint data. That data was sold on the dark web, and criminals used it to unlock your biometric security and burglarize your home." Their teenage daughter Emma started crying. "I practiced every day. For 2 years. Every time I touched those keys." "You were giving away your biometric identity," Marcus said gently. "But you had no way of knowing. The scanning was invisible. The company never disclosed it." Mr. Morrison looked shell-shocked. "How do we protect ourselves now? Our fingerprints are out there. They're permanent. We can't change them like we'd change a password." That was the truly horrifying part. Stolen passwords could be reset. Stolen credit cards could be cancelled. But stolen fingerprints? They were forever. Every victim would live the rest of their lives knowing that their biometric identity, the unique physical signature that was supposed to be unchangeable and unforgeable, was in the hands of criminals. Marcus visited other victims and heard similar stories. A music teacher whose entire student roster, 40 children, had their fingerprints stolen and sold. A retired couple who'd played piano together every evening for 30 years, now terrified to use any biometric security. A professional pianist whose career recordings were now associated with her stolen biometric data being used in identity fraud cases. The psychological impact was severe. Dr. Lisa Park, now working with victims, described it as biometric violation trauma. Fingerprints are uniquely personal, she explained during a victim support session. Marcus observed. They're not just data, they're physically part of you. When they're stolen and used without your consent, it feels like a violation of your body, your identity, your very self. And unlike other forms of theft, you can never get them back or change them. The violation is permanent. Some victims develop severe anxiety around touching any surfaces. Others refuse to use any technology with biometric features. Many reported feeling that their bodies had been turned against them, that something as simple and natural as touching piano keys had been weaponized to betray them. The children were particularly affected. How do you explain to a 10-year-old that their piano practice helped criminals steal their identity? That the instrument meant to bring joy had instead brought violation? Marcus watched as Emma Morrison testified at a hearing about the emotional impact. I loved playing piano. It was my favorite thing. Now I can't even look at a piano without feeling sick. They took that from me. They took my music. As the investigation deepened, Marcus and Agent Martinez uncovered the full scope of the conspiracy. KeyMaster hadn't been an innocent company victimized by a hostile takeover. The fingerprint harvesting had been planned from the beginning. Corporate emails revealed the truth. KeyMaster had been founded specifically as a biometric data collection front. Daniel Ross, the innocent founder, had been complicit from day one, though he'd eventually had second thoughts that led to the blackmail situation. The initial investors had included known figures in identity theft operations. The piano design had always included the fingerprint scanning capability, it was just hidden in the code until the company had achieved sufficient market penetration. It was a long con, Agent Martinez explained to Marcus. Spend 3 years building a legitimate-seeming piano company, get hundreds of thousands of devices into homes, then activate the harvesting feature. By the time anyone noticed, they'd already collected millions of fingerprints. The operation had been even more sophisticated than initially thought. The criminals had targeted specific demographics, affluent families, secure facilities. High-value individuals offered special discounts to music schools and universities to maximize data collection from young people, integrated with smart home systems to collect additional data for burglary planning, created fake positive reviews and influencer partnerships to drive sales, even paid for product placements in movies and TV shows to make KeyMaster pianos seem aspirational. It was industrial-scale biometric theft, carefully planned and executed over years. The trial revealed more disturbing details. Prosecutors presented evidence that the criminals had sold specific fingerprint sets to specific buyers for specific purposes. A corporate executive's fingerprints sold to a competitor for industrial espionage, a judge's fingerprints sold to organized crime to access court records, a scientist's fingerprints sold to foreign intelligence services to access research facilities, children's fingerprints sold to human trafficking networks for creating false identities. The crimes committed using the stolen fingerprints extended far beyond simple burglary. Lives had been destroyed, careers ruined, children endangered. Daniel Ross pleaded guilty to conspiracy and received a reduced sentence in exchange for cooperation. The other defendants, the criminal masterminds behind the operation, received sentences ranging from 15 to 25 years. KeyMaster Corporation was dissolved. All assets were liquidated to pay victim compensation, though no amount of money could truly compensate for stolen biometric identity. But Marcus knew the larger problem remained unsolved. The KeyMaster scandal exposed a terrifying vulnerability in modern life: smart devices were collecting biometric data constantly, and consumers had no idea. Post-scandal investigations by consumer protection agencies found that fingerprint-capable sensors were hidden in dozens of everyday products. Smart door handles that learned user grip patterns, touchscreen refrigerators that personalized display brightness, digital art tablets that calibrated pressure sensitivity, gaming controllers that adapted to player touch style, even some smartphones and laptops collected far more detailed fingerprint data than necessary for security, and this data was being stored and sometimes sold to third parties. Most consumers never read privacy policies and had no idea they were consenting to biometric data collection. Even those who did read the policies found language so vague that the true extent of data harvesting was obscured. Congress held hearings on biometric privacy. Marcus testified about the KeyMaster case. The problem isn't just criminal hacking, he told the committee. It's that legitimate companies are building biometric collection capabilities into products without clear disclosure or consent. They claim it's for user experience enhancement or personalization. But once that data is collected, it can be stolen, sold, or misused. And unlike passwords, biometric data can't be changed. New regulations were proposed. Mandatory disclosure of all biometric data collection opt-in consent rather than hidden terms of service restrictions on biometric data storage and sharing criminal penalties for undisclosed biometric harvesting regular independent security audits of devices with biometric sensors. But enforcement was difficult. Technology evolved faster than legislation. And many companies lobbied aggressively against restrictions, claiming they would stifle innovation. Marcus watched as some companies simply moved their operations overseas, beyond U.S. regulatory reach, continuing to harvest biometric data from American consumers through imported devices. The cat was out of the bag. The technology to secretly harvest fingerprints existed. The market for stolen biometric data existed. And even with KeyMaster shut down, Marcus knew other operations were already starting. We're in a new era of identity theft, Dr. Park told a technology security conference. It's not about what you know or what you have anymore. It's about who you are, literally. Your fingerprints, your facial structure, your voice patterns, your DNA. Everything that makes you uniquely you is now data that can be collected, stolen, and sold. And most people have no idea it's happening. A year after the KeyMaster takedown, Detective Marcus Webb returned to the Morrison house. The family had invited him to see how they were recovering. Emma was playing piano again, an old acoustic piano, no electronics, no sensors, no connectivity. Just wood, strings, hammers, and keys. She played beautifully. She's relearning to trust music, Mrs. Morrison told Marcus. It took months of therapy. She'd have nightmares about her fingers betraying her. But she missed playing too much to give it up forever. Marcus watched Emma play and thought about all the victims. Some, like Emma, were rebuilding. Others never fully recovered from the violation. The broader impact was harder to measure. How many people now avoided biometric security because they'd lost faith in its safety? How many children stopped pursuing music because their instruments had betrayed them? How many families lived with constant anxiety that their biometric identities were still being misused? Marcus himself had changed his relationship with technology. He'd removed all biometric locks from his home. He wore gloves when using public touchscreens. He'd even stopped playing the guitar he loved because he couldn't shake the paranoia about what invisible sensors might be collecting. We used to worry about what we said being recorded, Marcus reflected during an interview for a documentary about the case. Then we worried about what we did being recorded. Now we have to worry about what we are being recorded. Our bodies have become data sources we can't control. The documentary interviewer asked, "Do you think people are more cautious now?" Marcus shook his head. For a few months, yes. There was outrage, concern, changed behavior. But people have short memories and love convenience. New smart pianos are selling well, even though consumers have no way to verify they're not collecting biometric data. We've learned the lesson, but we're choosing to forget it because remembering is too inconvenient. He paused, looking tired. That's what makes this kind of crime so insidious. It doesn't feel like crime. It feels like progress, innovation, enhancement. You buy a beautiful piano that helps you make music. You have no idea it's also making copies of your fingerprints. And by the time you find out, the damage is permanent. Your biometric identity is already gone, already sold, already being used by people you'll never meet for purposes you'll never know. The interviewer pressed, "What should people do?" "Be paranoid," Marcus said bluntly. "Question every smart device. Read every privacy policy. Assume that if something can collect data about you, it is collecting data about you. And understand that some violations can never be undone. Some thefts are permanent." He looked at his own hands, the fingerprints that defined his unique identity, that he'd touched to countless surfaces throughout his life without ever worrying about what traces he was leaving behind. "We evolved fingerprints to help us grip things," Marcus said quietly. "Now they're what grips us, binds us to our identities, to our bodies, to data that can be stolen and used against us. That's the world we live in now. And I'm not sure we're ready for it." The KeyMaster case closed, but the questions it raised remain open. Biometric data collection is now ubiquitous, in our phones, our homes, our cars, our workplaces. We interact with dozens of sensors every day, many we don't even notice, all potentially collecting the unique biological signatures that identify us. Most of this collection is legitimate, carefully regulated, genuinely useful for security and convenience. But the KeyMaster scandal proved that the technology to weaponize biometric collection exists, and criminal incentive to steal that data is enormous. Today, stolen fingerprints from the KeyMaster operation are still circulating on the dark web. New victims discover the theft years later when their biometric data is used in crimes they had nothing to do with. Some have been falsely accused based on their fingerprints appearing at crime scenes where they never were. Others have watched helplessly as their identities were used to create fake documents, access secure facilities, or commit financial fraud. The 400,000 households affected by KeyMaster live with permanent vulnerability. They can never again trust that their fingerprints are truly theirs alone. Detective Marcus Webb continues working burglary cases, but now with a haunting awareness of how easily security can be compromised not by breaking it, but by stealing the keys, the literal biological keys that people carry with them in the form of their own bodies. The scariest thing about KeyMaster, he tells new investigators during training, wasn't that it was sophisticated. It's that it was so simple. Put sensors in something people touch regularly, collect the data, sell it. No hacking required. No forced entry. Just patient, systematic harvesting of biometric information from people who thought they were simply making music. He shows them photos from the case, the beautiful pianos, the glossy black keys, the families who trusted these instruments in their homes. Every time you interact with a smart device, ask yourself, what is this collecting that I don't know about? And if it's collecting data about my body, my biometrics, my physical identity, where is that data going? The lesson of the smart piano that stole fingerprints isn't just about criminal exploitation of technology. It's about the fundamental vulnerability created when our bodies become data sources. We touch things every day, door handles, phones, keyboards, instruments. We leave traces of ourselves on everything. In the past, those traces were meaningless, temporary, insignificant. But now those traces can be captured, digitized, and turned into permanent records of who we are at the most fundamental biological level. And once that data exists, it can never be destroyed. It can only change hands, from you, to companies, to hackers, to criminals, to anyone willing to pay. The KeyMaster victims learned this too late. Their fingerprints, the unique patterns they were born with, that they thought were private, that they believed were safe, were stolen by something as innocent as a piano. The rest of us are still learning. Every day, with every touch, with every interaction with devices that are smarter than we realize. The question isn't whether your biometric data is being collected. It's what happens to it after it is. This story is completely fictional. KeyMaster pianos and biometric harvest solutions do not exist. Current digital pianos and musical instruments do not secretly collect fingerprints. However, the technology discussed is real. Capacitive fingerprint sensors can be embedded in touchscreens and other surfaces. Many devices do collect biometric data, and the security and privacy of that data is an ongoing concern in cybersecurity discussions. This story is meant to encourage critical thinking about smart devices, biometric data collection, and what happens to the biological information we unknowingly share through everyday interactions with technology. Your fingerprints are unique, permanent, and irreplaceable. Make sure you know what devices are collecting them, and where that data goes. Thank you for watching. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and remember, not all theft requires breaking in. Some theft happens through the devices we invite into our homes and touch every single day.